The federal the federal government, alongside the state governors, are considering the creation of state police. This followed an emergency meeting between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and state governors at the House of Villa on Thursday. Thursday meeting follows the recent hike in food price, economic hardship, and pocket of insecurity recorded nationwide. Addressing State House correspondents after the meeting, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, explained that the process is still in its infancy and would only take shape after more deliberation between stakeholders, and also said the federal government and state governors are mulling the possibility of setting up the force that will be definitely controlled by the police. The debate for the creation of state police in Nigeria primarily stems from the constant issue of insecurity and also centralize Nigerian police force, which is perceived by many as inadequate for addressing the unique security challenges across the country and the diverse regions. While some proponents argue that the outfit would bring about enforcement closer to the communities they serve and enhance the efficiency of policing and allow for more localized control over security matters, others are against the idea out of the fear that state police could lead to abuse of power, particularly in states with strong political control, and potentially increasing the regional tension and undermining national unity. But whether for or against, the issue of state police is one Nigerians need to look at, especially at this critical time. And hence, a look at it today on The Big Story. Now, we're talking about the creation of state police, those for and against, and not just only looking at that, but also looking at the structure it should take, knowing that many are of the idea that it should definitely come, and with that very meeting on Thursday between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the state governors on the issue that concerns it. But anyway, to help us talk about this, we have no other person but the security expert. He has a BSc in Criminology and Security Studies and MSc in Intelligence and Security Studies. I'm talking of no other person but security expert Omojafe Edafe. Good morning and welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Well, anyway, it's one that we need to talk about, and one that seems to be on almost every platform as it stands now. And well, let's just look about why it came to be, especially with this recent trend of having it those for and many others against. Now, we do know there was an extensive meeting on Thursday between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the state governors and the National Security Advisor and other stakeholders. And, well, they touched on many issues, especially major issues confronting the country. We'll talk about the increase in food price and the protest that likely took place 2 weeks back and would take place on the 28th and 27th of this month, being called by organized labor. But that's not what they looked at basically alone. State police took center stage. And this is not the first time it's taking center stage. The issue of state police arose its head in 2014, immediately after that national confab. And since then, well, it has been there, but it took more center stage in the last 8 years after the administration or during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And funny enough, in the not just during his twilight alone, the issues of state police started picking up momentum, and also in the early life of this very administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But my question now is, do you feel we have come to that road where state police cannot be swept away and needs to be discussed about? Because why I say so, let's look at what the Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly, we're talking of Obasa, he said that it's not just only inevitable, but urgently desirable. That's what he said. So I'm asking you the question now, are we there now to look at it? Can't be swept again under the carpet.
Michael, thank you very much once again for having me. It's a thing of, it's something exciting to talk about because, as it were, it is presently in the front burner.
Yes.
And you now begin to ask yourself, are there political intrigues? You know, there are many unanswered questions that are begging for answers.
Yeah.
Now, if it were, you're asking if it is right for us to talk about it. Yes.
Is it not right? Is it ripe?
Is it
ripe and right? Should it be something we need now to discuss? Because if you look at it, after the 2014 confab, yeah, it came up pockets here and there, but isn't it being dismissed?
Now, when I mean right to discuss, it is right to discuss. Is it ripe
to discuss?
Then I will say it is not ripe to discuss. There are two distinct things, different things, you know. And I sincerely want to tell you, my dear, why would I say it is right to discuss? There are pertinent issues that are on ground. The level of insecurity has risen to that kind of crescendo that every right-thinking person, patriotic by nature, has to be worried. You know, because with this kind of level of insecurity, you're not expecting a multinational organization to come into the country and invest in where there is no security.
Of course.
When the security of their lives and their properties are not guaranteed, you can't ask somebody to come and invest in your land. Then secondly, why am I saying we are not ripe? Are we a united nation, as it were? Nigeria have never been this divisive, have never been this divided along ethnic, I'm not going to put religious line, ethnic lines. You go on net, you go online, you will see the Igbo man after the Hausa man after the Igbo man, the Yoruba man after the Igbo man, the Yoruba man after the... So that we are so messed up in our social integration platform. So if we delve into state police, as Nigeria is as of today, there are bound to be hiccups. There are bound to be hiccups. And if we don't take care, before you know, what we are avoiding or what we have been running away or shying away from will not happen to them.
But let me ask you now, Mr. Mojafi. You talked about regional lines, and you feel we're far more divided. But the painful reality is that insecurity seems not to know whether you are a Hausa man, you are a Yoruba man, you are a Kanuri man, you are an Ijaw man. Insecurity seems not to care. So don't you feel, irrespective of the regional line and divide that we seem to share at the moment, insecurity should take center stage?
Michael, you see, as much as we want to talk about them, there are some fundamental issues that we need to address. So I am believing that there are gray areas, or rather red flags, that need to be addressed before we talk about the state police. Okay. And I expect that, like, funny enough, or good enough rather, the Minister for Information said, you know, that is still in the infancy, you know, embryonic stage, and they are going to be talking a lot of things they're going to talk about and all that. So I am hoping and believing that, you know, critical stakeholders, you know,
so those gray areas,
yes, they will be highlighted. You know, they shouldn't shy away from them. They should highlight them. You know, look at issues that will more integrate us than disintegrate us.
Okay, now let's leave that regional line, but also look, I really want to toe your line, but in a different way in towing that line. Now, there's this belief that the creation of state police is beyond necessity. And the reason some proponents are saying it's beyond necessity is that, let's look at it. If we're talking about security, why not strengthen the federal police to do so? Why not strengthen them? Why not give them the required manpower? Give them the required skills? Just like what we have in Scotland and in the UK. Why not do that rather than creating a different outfit? And what will make it even more better equipped rather than coming from the federal and the states? So that's the question. So is it that it's not, the creation of state police is just beyond necessity, and many people are just clamoring for it because of some political interest?
Now I did mention political intrigues. You know, when I started, I said something about, are you sure it is in the front burner? There are more serious issues that we ought to be talking about now. The Naira is on a free fall. The economy is in its most terrible state. And now these are issues that are supposed to be in the front burner. And unfortunately, I think for reasons best known to them, probably diversionary method employed by the leadership, you know, to take away the probably cool tension and maybe take away the interest of Nigerians from the present predicaments than to look at something.
So you feel, okay, now we're now listening
I consider it to be diversionary. And I feel like, because there are basic things you must ask yourself. You are talking about taking it from the father and giving it to the son to handle. When you take it from the father and give to the son, what, does the son have the capability? What does he have? The father is the one, the central, is the one that is in charge of dispensation of resources. It's not as if there will be a constitutional amendment to say that the state should control their resources. Now we'll still be expecting the normal, what do you call it, cola nut sharing of the revenue that are allocations coming from states.
And then not different from what is now.
Not different from what is.
So you feel most of these monies that normally the state would have used in giving other amenities will be channeled into.
So to me, it's just, that's why I said there are red flags and gray areas that need to be ironed out and spotted and ironed out. If they are sincere.
But I'll take you up there. If the states are not viable and they're not secured, will investment come?
Now, when we talk about viability and all that, you ask yourself, what is the fundamental problem with the Nigeria Police Force?
Okay.
Is it the central nature that is the problem?
Many people feel it's too centralized.
Now,
if you decentralize it, you shift the issue of security matters closer to the people.
Why don't devolve more powers? Make sure you balkanize the power structure and give powers to the regions. Maybe we have AIGs in zones. Everything does not have to end in the table of the Inspector General Police. So it's a legal issue. Go to the National Assembly. Think of how to make sure you devolve the powers in the Nigeria Police Force and give people power to probably the DPO to handle local. There's what we call discretionary powers in Nigeria Police Force that I don't think they exercise here. Probably, like normally if you commit a crime, and within the lower rank police officers, see for instance, you committed something that you can just walk away from. There's what we call discretionary.
But are we not going to have power tussle among these regional heads?
Now, when it comes to where it is legal, it is law, I'm sure we will want to follow it. They are law enforcement agents, agencies. So I think that sincerely, instead of thinking of saddling the responsibility, or rather embodying the states with a homologous burden, financial burden, what don't we think of how to strengthen the Nigeria Police Force at the center, decentralize it when necessary, give more powers and authorities to the zones and the states, rather than think of how to create a state. So it's laughable, if you ask me. I don't see it as realistic because Nigeria is, along ethnic lines, we are so divided. Imagine a Hausa man coming to Igbo land to transact business and something happens. How fairly are you sure he's going to be dispensed justice? How fairly? So we look at all these gray areas and we must be very, very, realistic.
Okay, now this is what we'll also do. We'll look at the gains and the disadvantage on the show today.
Yeah.
And we're not just going to only look at that. We're going to also look at what structure the state police should naturally take because irrespective of whether you disagree with the idea, it's most certainly is going to happen under this administration. So we'll look at all of that soon. But I'll plead with you to hold on. Just like I'll plead with our viewers to also hold on. We need to go on a break now. But when we come back, we'll talk about the creation of state police. We'll be looking at what structure it should not naturally take. And as much as our guest here seems a bit reserved and have a strong reservation against the creation of state police, we'll still look at the gains that might possibly come on account of creating state police. And not just the gains that would naturally come, but also look at the great disadvantage and the issue of making it more regional and making it more into more of a force being controlled by the state governors. And the great fear many Nigerians would really express or have is the issue of state governors using these as a tool to deal with their opposition. But is the federal government not using it as a tool already? Well, anyway, it's not the question I'm answering, but one will be asking later. So let's go on a break and we'll come back, more discussion on the creation of state police.